In August 1965, Singapore was expelled from the Federation of Malaysia. Overnight, the small island of less than 600 square kilometers became a sovereign state, unwanted, unarmed, and uncertain of survival. It possessed no natural resources, no standing army, and no reliable source of fresh water. Its population of 2 million was fragmented by ethnicity, language, and religion. The island's economy depended almost entirely on the British naval base and entrepot trade, both fragile in a world shifting toward industrial self-sufficiency. Beyond its shoreline lay neighbours sceptical of its legitimacy. Within, unemployment exceeded 10%, and housing was scarce. Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, standing before a newly independent parliament, wept as he described the severance. His tears, however, were not of surrender, but calculation. Singapore, he knew, would not be saved by sentiment. It would survive only through discipline, rational planning, and an unyielding belief in the capacity of human order to conquer geographic despair. A nation had been born from rejection, its soil unfit for cultivation, its future uncertain, and its only resource, the will of its people. Lee Kuan Yew's Singapore would be governed not by ideology, but by method. His administration designed a long-range blueprint that fused pragmatism with control, engineering with morality. 5 strategic pillars would define this project: the securing of resources, the construction of housing and identity, the eradication of corruption, the establishment of deterrence, and the transformation into a global economic node. Singapore's most critical weakness was its dependence on Malaysia for water. 2 agreements, signed in 1961 and 1962, allowed the import of raw water from the Johor River. Yet Lee viewed dependence as existential risk. The island invested heavily in reservoirs, desalination, and advanced reclamation systems. By the 1970s, every drop of rain was directed toward collection. The 2000s saw the introduction of new water, recycled, purified water meeting over 30% of national demand. The state transformed vulnerability into self-sufficiency through science, integrating water policy with land planning. The message was clear: sovereignty begins with control over necessity. The next challenge was the fragmentation of society. Ethnic enclaves, slums, and overcrowded shophouses defined urban life. The Housing and Development Board, established in 1960, became an instrument of nation building. By acquiring land under compulsory purchase laws, the government constructed standardized public flats, functional, modest, and heavily subsidized. But housing was not only shelter, it was ideology. Ownership would bind citizens to the state. Through the Central Provident Fund, workers' savings were directed toward home purchases, intertwining personal stability with national loyalty. Ethnic quotas were later introduced in housing estates to prevent segregation, ensuring every apartment block mirrored the demographic balance of the country. The physical reconstruction of the island was thus a social experiment, to engineer cohesion through concrete and identity through design. Lee believed corruption was fatal to small nations. A single compromised institution could collapse public trust and foreign confidence. The Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau, CPIB, was given exceptional autonomy, empowered to investigate any official, regardless of rank. Civil service salaries were pegged to private sector standards to remove the incentive for graft. Transparency became institutional habit rather than aspiration. Ministers were dismissed for minor breaches. Civil servants were expected to perform with mathematical precision. Over decades, Singapore achieved what few developing nations could: a reputation for incorruptibility. Trust became capital, attracting investors who valued predictability over democracy and reliability over rhetoric. In 1965, Singapore possessed no army. Surrounded by larger neighbours, it could not afford weakness. Israel, then experienced in survival amid hostility, was secretly engaged to train the new Singapore Armed Forces. National service was introduced in 1967, mandating every male citizen to serve 2 years in uniform. This conscription, though unpopular, created both defence and discipline. Singapore's military was not designed for conquest, but deterrence. Every citizen soldier was a statement of resilience, a reminder that independence would be defended by collective will, not by foreign alliances. Within a decade, the island had built one of the most capable armed forces in Southeast Asia. Defence, like water, became a pillar of sovereignty. With no natural resources, Singapore turned to its position, geographic and strategic. The island reinvented itself as a global port and manufacturing hub. Under the Economic Development Board, industries were invited not through ideology, but through incentives, tax holidays, reliable infrastructure, and rule of law. Western multinationals found in Singapore a stable gateway to Asia. The government emphasized education in English, transforming linguistic diversity from barrier to advantage. By the 1980s, Singapore's economy had evolved from assembling radios to producing semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, and precision instruments. By the 1990s, it was a financial centre rivaling Hong Kong. Each shift was orchestrated, guided by data, implemented by technocrats, and evaluated through measurable outcomes. The city became a machine calibrated for efficiency. Through these 5 pillars, Lee Kuan Yew's administration transformed scarcity into structure. Governance became a science, the state a corporation, and the citizen a shareholder of survival. Half a century after independence, Singapore stands as an engineered equilibrium. It possesses one of the world's highest GDPs per capita, an airport that functions as a model of precision, and a port that channels a fifth of global trade. Its water supply, once an existential vulnerability, is now a managed system integrated with urban design. Public housing accommodates over 80% of its citizens. Crime rates remain among the lowest in the world. Bureaucracy operates with digital efficiency, and political continuity is preserved through tightly managed elections. Critics call it paternalism. Admirers call it foresight. Both are correct. Singapore's success was never accidental. It was calculated. Every street, school, and policy was constructed to minimize entropy. Its governance model prizes stability over spontaneity, competence over charisma. Yet this order has a price. Individual expression yields to collective necessity. Dissent is tolerated only within predictable bounds. The city's perfection feels deliberate, almost sterile, proof that social harmony can be manufactured, though never without trade-offs. Still, in the humid air of a tropical metropolis, the logic of survival remains unbroken. The swamp has become a mirror of human design, precise, planned, and perpetually maintained. Singapore's story is not of miracle, but of management. Its triumph rests on vigilance, the constant maintenance of systems that guard against chaos. Independence, once won, must be defended not only by soldiers, but by discipline, honesty, and foresight. Lee Kuan Yew's vision endures as both achievement and warning. The institutions he built are efficient because they cannot afford decay. The nation's stability, so carefully engineered, depends on generations who continue to believe in order as the highest virtue. From swamp to skyline, Singapore stands as a testament to the architecture of will, a small island whose sovereignty was not inherited, but constructed. Its existence remains an equation balanced between strength and fragility, reminding the world that even perfection must be sustained, or it will quietly dissolve back into the sea.